Hello and welcome to the second episode of Holsworthy Live, which it was not called in the last clip it. I haven't watched it and I can't remember what it was, but I'm pretty sure it was around the 20-word mark.
But it is titled Holsworthy Live because you title after recording it. So yeah, if you look it up as Holsworthy Live, I'm pretty sure you'll find it. It's one of those papers in a public library that's like right at the end. Like, you need to look after it, because there's literally one subscriber, which is me. So you have to try really hard. So if you are looking at it, you need to like go on upload date and find. Which is bizarre that I'm telling them on this, because this is also going to go under that pile.
That's alright. Like,
yeah,
the thing is that, look, there's one person there I bet is going to go, and click subscribe at that point.
Actually, there is one person who's, I don't know how the fuck he found it, but there's one guy who subscribed it and comment, and he was saying, nice video, I reckon you should kick each other in the balls.
I forgot about that. Yes, there was a demand in the last video, I think I came up with it, that whoever got the most comments about who should be kicked in the nuts will get kicked in the balls. We will do that, because I am assuming it's Vislav again because of petitioning. Please make it Vislav. Especially since he's not here. The reason he is because this is the sequence of events of this man's life. Monday of last week, he says to us, boys, I've got to get my act together. I'm 27 now, you know, and life's a short roller coaster, baby, and I'm halfway up the mountain, you know. It's all downhill in a couple of years. So we said, yeah, that's great. Why don't you just start working on your band? You can put it in the podcast. We'll start giving you that audience. And he goes, yeah, man, thanks. Also, I'm not going to be here for the next 5 days because I'm going on a bush bash.
Yeah, he's literally in a bush, lying somewhere out in the sun, while like overdosing on mushrooms.
Yes, but there's a guy there called the Goon Man, and he's the mascot of this place. He's the Sydney Roosters of this bush bash, and he's a 50-year-old man that walks around with a bunch of goon bags on him going, feed for my nipples. And this is Miss Love's version of getting his life together. Shrooms plus the Goon Man plus...
Yeah, that's getting serious in life.
So yeah, vote on him getting kicked in the nuts. We'll do it next time he's here, and just between you and me, because he definitely won't watch it, we'll just do it without his knowledge. So, I think we're here not to talk about kicking Miss Love in the balls. It's mostly about one of the most impactful leaders of the 20th century, which was, of course, Mr. Fidel Castro. And now that I've said his name, I've run out of any facts that I know about him. So, Ali, over to you. What do you know about him? Tell us.
So, Fidel Castro is, he was like...
Hey, Ali's brother.
Yeah, there's like my
around.
brother just came back from schoolies in Gold Coast.
Did he?
Yeah, he just came back.
Sanju, was it wild?
Sanju, do you want to come here?
Oh, he's shy.
Anyway, well,
But it was
if you don't...
probably intense.
It was, well, yeah, it was pretty
Hey, just come here and tell us about your experience of schoolies.
Yeah,
for
quickly,
like 2
quickly.
minutes.
Just...
This is my brother, Sanju.
Hey guys, school was pretty wild, yeah. One of a kind experience, I guess.
Come on, what? Tell us, like, tell us something loose about it.
Did you meet
please.
Toolies?
Yeah, there was a lot of Toolies. There was a Toolie with us.
Why?
Why were you
twice
allowing
now.
him to be there?
Oh, crap.
Was he like trying to get on with your friends?
No, he was one of our good mates. He's just a year older than us.
Oh, I suppose that's kind of acceptable. But at the same time, did he score more than you?
No. Joda scored the most.
Sweet.
Yeah. Don't know who that is.
Yeah.
Jodas is one of his friends. Anyway, so we were going back to Fidel Castro. Thanks for joining us. So,
What a guess.
so
Stay tuned, because we've also got Mr. Whiskers.
yeah, this is my cat that we've actually. She had really long fur that we recently got rid of because it's too much problem.
Yeah, and
So
now just looks like some skinny little alien lord.
this cat is
Still
actually,
a lord.
Yeah.
Look at it, it's like, you don't get more purebred than that. But, seriously, come on. It's a freak. But yeah, okay, tell us about Fidel Castro.
So
get out of here.
The thing that actually, when I read that Fidel Castro has passed away, the first thing that came into my mind, this is clearly the last straw of 20th century communism. Mind you, Fidel Castro is the first biography that I ever read. I considered him, because I had this vague idea of, you know, revolution, communism, and I thought that, everyone goes after Che Guevara. I don't like the fact that he's on every person's shirt. I'm gonna go for Fidel, because that's the guy.
Yeah, why is Che such a shirt icon? What did he do? Didn't he just ride around on a motorcycle going, oh, have you heard of communism? No. Alright, well, you will in a couple of years.
Yeah, well, Che Guevara was pretty... So the difference between... Okay, maybe this is a good way to start. So, when Che Guevara and Fidel Castro both united and then decided to launch this revolution in Cuba to overthrow Batista.
Were they mates or were they just business associates?
Oh, they were... Well, it's sort of hard because the communist literature portrays them as just these best of friends. But they knew each other. And when you're spending so much time with one another, you're bound to be mates in a sense. But what happened was then they both liberated Cuba, and Che Guevara said that this is only the beginning of our mission. Our point is not to stop here, but we need to continue to bring revolutions in the rest of Latin America. Fidel Castro said that no, we've taken over this, we need to build an ideal society here. This is the reason why we were doing this in the first place. So obviously that there was a disagreement there. Fidel Castro decided to stay and build like a communist republic in Cuba. Che Guevara continued to go and eventually got killed by the CIA.
Much more mature approach of, yeah, basically going on a years-long gap year. It's what you do on your gap year, isn't it? You ride around on a motorcycle in Latin America, just being like, what is it? What is on that stick? Oh, it's a guinea pig. And then straight at the head, I was like, gross.
Yeah, because that apparently the motorcycle, the idea is that he went on this motorcycle ride, which was actually kind of his gap year, and he just found out that like the whole of South America is just really povo, and he felt that he needed to do something, and this was the time of that's the other thing. That's what I meant when Fidel Castro died. That was like the last straw of the 20th century communism, where there was an existing ideology. When you saw poverty and you needed to express your angst against it, you have this language to use, which was at that time communism, where the poor will take over from the government, and we will. Man, can you not do that here? I'll cut it out, but Jesus. Okay, so
don't cut it out.
I'm gonna.
That was the best part.
Like, just fucking ridiculous. Anyway, so
it was very, very immature.
Yeah.
I would have expected something better from someone who's hungover from a week at schoolies.
Okay, fair enough. Either way, so you had this. So when you saw immense amounts of poverty, you had this language to express yourself. You would say that, you know, we have an alternate ideology. You would find a villain in capitalism, and you would find salvation through this new ideology that was actually being propagated throughout the world. And obviously both of them caught on to it, and it was noble, because in the sense that, you know, something needs to be done about poverty. It's a fair argument. So Fidel Castro, when he took over Cuba, he got rid of Batista, who was essentially an American puppet that was installed. Cuba is extremely important to the United States, because not only is it just off the coast of Florida, but it poses a monumental problem if it is being controlled by someone that is sympathetic to the Soviet Union at the time. So Americans were flipping out, which is why.
Do you think that it was also a factor that Frank Sinatra liked going there for his holidays?
That was the reason. But that's one of the things. The reason Frank Sinatra liked going there during his holidays, because it was essentially like the American holiday destination. It was a puppet regime. It was Bali. It was a puppet regime where the elites of America would go, and the Cuban elites, which now are in America, would basically just have a ball while just stepping over these immense amount of poor people. You know, this is like the biggest fucking hypocrisy. They always say Fidel Castro, you know, he kept his country poor, and there are so many people that are still poor. When he wasn't there, there were still so many poor people without healthcare and without education, mind you.
Yeah, and I heard that the literacy rate there was close to zero.
Because they didn't give a fuck. What Fidel Castro did, he was that, so the first thing that he did was like he needed to invest. This is again what Fidel Castro, and in fact a lot of dictators do, which is that their idea of governance is, so in any normal case of government, what you would do is the prime minister or the head of state would depend on his cabinet, and the cabinet would depend on his bureaucracy, and the bureaucracy eventually would execute decisions that would affect the local populace, right? What a sort of populist dictator tries to do is that they eliminate everyone that's in between and try to access the actual population.
Cut the middleman.
Cut the middleman. And which, as you can imagine, is effective in the sense that if you like, Hugo Chavez was one of them as well, where the people of Venezuela just loved the man, but the middle bureaucracy just hated him because he didn't give a fuck about them. And Fidel Castro did the same thing. So he provided, so poor people in Cuba could access education. Cuba has the most doctors per capita. I think that's like famous news around the world now. Anywhere where there's disaster relief, where they need doctors, Cuba is the country to look at because they've got good trained doctors that are basically don't have jobs. And the reason why
that's amazing. So they're our version of graphic designers.
I never thought of it, but that's such a good comparison. It's like our media graduates, and just so many of them with like 2 jobs out there.
5,000 journalists, 35 positions. Good luck to anyone who's doing a degree in that. You're gonna need it. I don't think that you'll even get a job, but anyway, continue listening to this now that your prospects have been completely demolished.
Yes, so that's how Fidel Castro maintained his regime for a really long time. Because no matter what you say, the poor people of Cuba, which are in the mass majority, like the guy. They said that I don't care because
he was the Rodney Rude. Of that place, the people loved him.
The people loved him.
Didn't.
Because that's the thing, the elites always say Cuba is still poor because of you, because you're implementing these Bolshevik policies that don't work. Which in a sense I understand, but from a poor person's perspective in Cuba, it's like, dude, it was never good for me, and I know if you change the system, you're gonna get rich, I'm gonna be even worse off. Because like...
Well, why does it not work then? Because, to me, if the society is... I think that they've got very good employment rate as well. So if they're fully employed, if they've got medical health care and if they've got education, what more do you need, baby?
That's the thing. So
and you've got this son, huh?
And you've got this Cuba. I don't think that they have full employment by any stretch. Like, there's massive unemployment in Cuba. And
stretch my contribution. Because it's so not based on anything.
And the problem is, because of this embargo, that has been on Cuba for a very, very long time. So there's people that are being trained to become doctors, engineers. The education system in itself is pretty good, but there's literally no employment opportunity for them. So they're just overqualified, unemployed people that eventually end up working as a bellboy for a hotel. The reason why they
like everywhere else on the planet at the moment.
Yeah, but in Cuba it's different because Cuba's like tourism industry is one that has developed over the years a bit. So that's where your actual foreign money comes from.
Oh, that's awesome. So they've got doctors that are water ski instructors.
Exactly, because that's where the money's at, unfortunately. And because of this embargo, an island nation like Cuba depends highly on trade. And if you take that opportunity from them, then they're gonna suffer quite a bit. They have been, initially the Soviet Union funded them, right? Soviet Union was like, we need this this proxy in the backyard of America, and we're gonna help you, like the way China did with North Korea, and still continues to do in a certain extent. So Soviet Union helped them out. Then after the Soviet Union collapsed and they couldn't do it anymore, Venezuela, which had Hugo Chavez later on, helped them in terms of oil, because Venezuela is an oil-rich country, so they would supply them with energy that would keep them going. But you know, against all odds, these people tried to, and the problem was, like, for some bizarre reasons, Americans thought that if they keep this embargo, that's gonna force them to change their regime. Why are you in the business to change people's regimes? I mean, I know it's in your backyard, and but this is not a good strategy. What happened? He was there for fucking 60 years, some ridiculous amount, and because you did that, the people of Cuba are still hostile. And it's ridiculous that after the fall of Soviet Union, when you eliminated the greatest threat that posed you, and which is why you were obsessed with Cuba, you decided not to change. I mean, I don't get the logic of that. Why? Because
I really don't know why they're even doing it as well. But I think Obama was the only one that saw that it was stupid, right? Yeah. Every other president just went down the lines where he's about to crack.
This is another thing. As much as I admire Obama, but he sort of is misguiding people. So he said that he felt that this has been way too long in Cuba. What actually happened was that at local American conferences where like Latin American countries, America and Canada would meet to discuss regional issues, America got completely isolated because every country in the region said, why are you are mental. What is the point of this? And then eventually, if America didn't attempt to normalize relations with Cuba at some extent, they would have become a global, like a regional joke. Pariah. A joke that you are just obsessed with this. And it's essentially a lot of Cuban Americans that live in America are against the normalization because they were the direct effect. They were affected by the communist revolution because they were the elites that were having a ball that eventually got thrown out by the communist regime. So they're still saying that no room, but that's like, okay.
Man, don't those guys look like they suck though as well? I mean, if you're wearing those kind of... The only other people that I know wear the kind of clothes they do is Jewish grandmas that are addicted to pokies in Vegas. You know, they just wear those kind of like John Howard joggers and shit, and they're just these 6-year-olds being like, you don't know what it's like in Cuba. You don't know either, man. You've got Alzheimer's. You can't remember Cuba.
The other thing that I was reading up some testimonies of Cuban Americans, and sure, a lot of them were saying that when Fidel Castro died, that he's a dictator who it's good that he's dead. But some of them that actually did go back to Cuba, they had a different view. They might have hated Fidel, but they were saying like the sanctions, the embargo isn't something that's good. That was unanimous, even with Cuban Americans that visited Cuba. Because you can just see, what's the point? When the argument is that we're not going to lift this embargo because we want democratic values to be instilled in their government. There's so many governments in this world that we deal with that are not democratic. Why this exception for Cuba? China is not democratic. It's our biggest fucking trading partner. I mean, I don't get that. I just don't understand that logic. I could have understood it when Soviet Union wanted to keep nukes in Cuba. I understood it, but now it's just like, it's ridiculous.
Is that as far as it goes with America? They just say they want democratic values instilled in Cuba, and that's the end of the discussion.
They don't have anything else to say now. They literally don't have anything else to say. What else do you want them to do? Except for they say that there needs to be freedom of speech. There need to be democratic values, and you know. But this is like this is a smokescreen almost, because there's heaps of countries that don't have that, but we deal with that. We actually, America, really, like fucking Saudi Arabia. What are you talking about? Like, that is the most insane example that America's one of the biggest allies is Saudi Arabia. Do you think they're fucking democratic? Women can't drive over there. Like, I just don't understand the hypocrisy. But either way, like, this has turned out to be an America bashing. But in terms of Cuba, I think they really do deserve it. But what
who runs it now? Sorry, you go. But
Raul Castro, who is Fidel Castro's younger brother.
And is he sort of like Jamie Packer in that? Yeah, the original was great, and then they came out with Coke New, and everyone went, "Can we go back to Coke Original?"
What Raul Castro did, which I think was pertinent for the time, was when he came in, he said that I represent the same values as Fidel Castro, because obviously he didn't want to lose the base that supports him and has kept his brother in power for so long. But he also said that I believe in opening up. So opening up our economies, doing some sort of concessions, not changing the basic structure of the society, but to give some concessions to make our economy more viable, which was... He did that, and obviously he would come up with his own compulsions, but the Americans didn't really respond that well. Obama did his bit. So he went to Cuba, which was again a monumental thing to do, considering that it's just really unpopular amongst the politicians and the establishment. But it just wasn't enough. And Raul Castro sort of did his bit.
Right. But let's talk about what everyone really cares about. Donald Trump. What's he gonna do?
The interesting thing about Donald Trump is that, okay, Donald Trump himself is obviously, as most people would have figured out, a very pragmatic man. And also, because he's not from there, he has these thoughts that are out of the box. And those thoughts aren't necessarily that bad. So the whole dilemma is that I bet, because he's a glory hog, he wants to normalize or, fix things, as he would think of it, fix things in Cuba. That would be his natural urge. The issue is that...
Don't you think that his version of Mr. Gorbachev, tear down this wall, will be him playing golf in Cuba?
Pretty much. And, but this is why I've always been, like, before the election, I was convincing everyone not to vote for that guy. It was because he is going to be surrounded by people that are going to be very hostile to the idea of normalizing relations with Cuba. I mean, we must understand that the people that he's surrounding himself are not in this game at all. If Democrats couldn't do it, then these Republicans that depend on the Cuban American base will not be down for it. So he'll constantly get briefings. You cannot do this. You cannot do this. But I do feel that his natural urge would be to try to fix it. He actually made so the Prime Minister of Pakistan made a phone call to Donald Trump, and Donald Trump was like just. Like according to the government of Pakistan's transcript, he was just saying, Pakistan is a fantastic country. Every person that I've met from Pakistan is just intelligent. I'm willing to work with you to solve the India-Pakistan issue. I've heard great things about you. Just like a really, like flowery language, but just showing support, which is insane because Obama has never been to Pakistan in 8 years. Not because he didn't want to. He actually had Pakistani mates. He's lived in Pakistan. He speaks of the country very fondly, but as like a policy, because they want to punish Pakistan in a certain sense where they want them to get rid of these terrorist groups that the intelligence agency harbors. So as a protest, they wouldn't go there and keep pressuring on them. But because Donald Trump doesn't know this, maybe he does, but because he's Donald Trump, he just said all of this thing that created a really good impression in Pakistan.
So
and they
good.
were like,
Such
dude, this guy's mad. And that's why they released the transcript as well. He got into real shits in America because like diplomats were saying, oh, he should have taken State Department briefings and there's a reason why Obama didn't visit. This was a ridiculous phone call.
If that language works when like Cindy Crawford goes to one of his casinos and that makes her just go, yeah, I think I'll go on stage now. I'm not feeling precarious anymore.
Yeah.
That's what you do. It just works with everyone.
And it's the out of the box thinking that I think it's just coming from Donald Trump, but it's required. The other thing about, leave aside Pakistan because that's like a smaller issue, but him saying that we need to work with Russia, and every establishment guy going again, like I reckon that's like an obvious thing to do now. I mean, why are we still at odds with Russia? Why are we still in this Cold War paradigm when Russia isn't actually out to get you? Like, I really think that America could work with Russia. And sure, like, America needs to give Russia a better spot within Europe and its region, which it's unwilling to do, which is what the whole issue is about. But America needs to realize that they should let Russia take care of their area and also work with China and give them a bigger space. Because look, they're the second largest economy in the world. Russia is still a military might. If you're not going to give it to them, they're going to try to take it from you in a hostile way. Avoid that. Work with them, give them some responsibility so you don't have to stress about Syria all the time as well. It's going to help you too. Let them. The only thing is that America then tries to act like, oh, our values are different to their values, so them taking care of the situation means that they're going to persecute people, whereas we're going to bring freedom, which I think is a fallacy altogether. Like, how do you bring freedom to a country where there's like a civil war, people are just killing you? Like, you need some sort of brute practical policies in order to sort of avoid the bloodshed that's going on.
Yeah, Russia had it right, man. Just back aside.
And yeah, we don't have to agree with everything that Russia does, but we don't have to be obsessed about getting this president to the White House that has an anti-Russia tone always. Like, you know, the sort of threats, these terrorist organizations in the Middle East, the sort of threats that we're facing, I reckon in about 100 years, when we look at this period, we're going to look at the American politicians talking shit about Russia as a joke, as in like something that they were obsessed with, but there was clearly bigger issues to deal with in the world. I'm pretty safe that history is going to look at this period and say, yeah, that was unrequired. So
but isn't that's probably going to be most of America's reign, right? Most of America's reign, everybody's going to go, geez, what a cancer. Didn't really help that.
Again, this is like, I wouldn't say that, because this is the same sort of attitude that paints Russia and China as these bad people. America isn't a bad person per se. Sure, if you're the global policeman, then you would have to make some tough choices, and there would be people that are dissatisfied. You cannot please everyone.
But where did they help? Even
do.
in World War II, right? Weren't they going to win it anyway, the Allies? And then they just swept in, took all the glory, chucked some Budweisers at the losers.
The thing was that if it was just up to Britain and France, but France got taken over as well. Like it was a big issue. Like World War II was serious, but
they could have handled it. But anyway, yeah. Sorry, we're going to World War II stuff. But in general, Cuba, Fidel Castro. What rank out of 10 would you give him as a leader?
I'm too close. I can't give it a rank. But what I can say is that his tenure has told us that populist movements and working genuinely for the poor works, where you can get into that power. But
as if that's not a 10.
Yeah, that's a 10. But what it also shows us that the Cold War paradigm of economic policies, where these Bolshevik policies, they didn't work, and we need to it would be really evil of us, you know, like I consider myself to be like a nostalgic Marxist as well, where it would be evil of us to say that no, we need to go back to that time. That was a catastrophe, and we understand. But what we need to realize is that we need to learn from that experience. Doesn't mean that we give up the project. The project of emancipation of the poor will be something that we should always, at least for me, will always strive for. But we need to learn from the mistakes that we made, and we need to come up with new ideas to combat the same old problems but with a new method. And in that sense, Fidel Castro's legacy to give us optimism to keep fighting that fight gives him 10 out of 10. But his actual example of policies, there's definitely a lot of room for improvement.
So 9 3/4 for his policy, which gives him a standard.
Not 9 3/4. Like it didn't work, man. So like, I wouldn't want to give a high grade.
A 4.5. 4.5 means close to success, but just short of south failure.
Yeah, look, 4.5. Some great achievement in terms of
heaps of
health
doctors,
and education.
Lots of hungry people.
But Cuba never managed to make a lot of money. That's like managed to raise their standard of living, reduce poverty, which was, remember, the whole point of the revolution. The reason why we wanted to do it in the first place was to help the poor people. It did help in certain regards, but it didn't become, you know, a well-off country. Like we would have, in this communist ideals, we would have imagined the country to become. So there's clearly something went wrong. So we can't say
wanted
it
it
was
to
all
be
fine.
Canada, but it just turned out to be
I don't know
another
if
dam.
he wanted to be Canada, but it was like in the sense that a country makes money, but it distributes it according to the way that is more equitable for everyone.
So it made no money, but distributed that no money.
Yeah, made no money, distributed it in a sense. I'm very to use this word, but in a sense effectively, where it wasn't just like the might shall get the money and the powerless shall get nothing. It wasn't in that sense, but there wasn't enough inflow of money. Like the business wasn't doing well.
Yeah, well, that was America's fault, though. In conclusion,
America's fault, but also, you know, like one needs to, like China is an example. So like America was, even though they did normalize relations with China during Mao's period, but China made decision to, like, irrespective of what happens around us, we need to get better. So they developed this export-driven economy. Cuba had, because there was an embargo, that would have been difficult, but that was something that I feel Fidel Castro could have made concessions on.
But he didn't.
Because it's important. It's important that we we raise the standard of living. We get people out of, you know, being really povo, essentially. Like, you know, give them something to work with. That was, in my mind, if I'm the leader, that's priority one. And just, Fidel Castro tried doing that, but like the ways that he tried to do it didn't work, unfortunately. But the courage to stand up to this unipolar superpower right in the backyard of this small, tiny island nation, but not giving up, saying like, we believe in this, irrespective of what you believe, we're going to do what we think is right, which is fair.
What an amazing little tale that you've told us, Ali. I'm pretty sure that nobody else has given an analysis like that, but having said that, the only thing that I heard so far was Conan O'Brien's opening monologue when he goes, "So Fidel Castro's dead," and said a gag. So I think it was more comprehensive than that. Thank you very much for your time. We'll see you next week.
See ya.
Bye.